Welcome to Voices in the Middle, from the Middle, sorry. I'm Dawn Allen, and this is Debbie Burkhart. We are writers from the middle of the country fighting for the voice of voters in our part of the country. This month, we're talking about solutions to overhaul a rotten system. So, first, we're going to talk about some of the signs of a predatory system. The first thing, everything is profit over people. Examples, in our country, we have for-profit healthcare and for-profit death. Profit, while in moderation, is a good thing. Every business needs to balance profit and loss. You never want to go into the red, but profit, too much of it, leads to corruption. Always. Just listen to Orwell or read the Bible, okay? Examples of corruption, our Congress has taken us from a country where the richest in the country in the 60s paid 90% taxes to where those who can least afford it are paying all the taxes, the middle class and the poor. So the next thing, also with Congress, that reveals the fact that we are corrupt. Congress raises its own wages every year, whether they earned it or not. And, I think if we took a vote, the bottom line would be they never do earn it. And now it's passed up Congress, and now we have a Supreme Court that's corrupt. It moved from big businesses to Congress to the highest court in our land. The court, which is supposed to be unpartisan, is now representing the rich and men, particularly white men, if we're being honest. Democracy, our voting system, is outdated in every way possible. Your vote only matters if you live in the right place. And that's why so many no longer vote. This has to change. Example, every election, we hear nothing about any part of the country but the swing states. And that is due to the electoral college, which is a whole nother bad apple that Debbie will get into. Okay, politicians are Mars and voters are Venus. You've all heard about or read the book, when men are Mars and women are Venus, that kind of thing. Okay, well, this is the voters versus the politicians. Your rights are dependent upon who you are, from your gender to your skin color, to your heritage, to your citizenship, to your age. Think about that for a minute, because that's virtually everybody fits into one of the categories. For those in this country to consistently use the Bible to regulate our country and each other, I want to review the following biblical, I don't really want to call it a preach, but it's one of the many things that Jesus said about what was expected of Christianity. So from Matthew 19:23-26, the American Standard Version, and Jesus said unto his disciples, verily I say unto you, it is hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And again, I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Matthew 19:23-26 from the Message Bible. As we watched him go, Jesus told his disciples, "Do you have any idea how difficult it is for the rich to enter God's kingdom? Let me tell you, it's easier to gallop a camel through a needle's eye than for the rich to enter God's kingdom." The disciples were staggered. Then who has any chance at all? Jesus looked hard at them and said, "No chance at all. If you think you can pull it off yourself, every chance in the world, if you trust in God to do it." Debbie is going to talk about solutions to the many issues our country is facing.
Okay. Excuse me. Our setup today is a little different, as you may notice, and I'm kind of backlit, but I'm sorry about that. We've had some technical issues we've been trying to deal with, so bear with us. First thing I want to start with is I think that at the base of everything that's going on, at the base of all of the solutions, is that our culture, our society have lost their sense of community and civility with each other. That in today's world, we've become very segregated, and I don't mean in a racial way. Usually, we don't get to know our neighbors in our neighborhood because we're all busy at work during the day. And we may know a couple of our neighbors, but that's more of a friendship than a sense of community. Our sense of community often comes with our jobs, the people we work with, or our extracurricular activities. If you play on a hockey team, or if you are a runner and you go with the same group of people, you create a community. But we used to embrace each other in a real sense of community, even if you didn't know somebody, but you heard that they needed something. The whole community would come out and help them. This is still kind of true in very, very small communities, small towns, but even there, the sense of community has broken down. And until we repair those connections, until we all start to realize that we are all connected and what affects one affects us all, until we get to that point, you're always going to have people who are more interested in how much money they have versus the people around them. That's kind of my rant for today. If we ever get our country back, and I sincerely hope and believe that we will, it's time to overhaul our government. It's been 200 years, a little over 200 years, and things are different today than they were when the founders put this together. And there's a lot of good things in our Constitution, and I don't want to lose those, but it does need to be updated. One of the things I feel strongly needs to be reinstituted into our government is an ethics committee. Now, we used to have one, but in the first Trump term, the Republicans voted to get rid of it. And you see what's happened since then. But an ethics committee that is composed of nonpartisan, composed of voters, let me put it that way, but meant to be nonpartisan, that looks at what is going on and can point out these unethical situations. Going along with that, we must then decide what is ethical and what is not, and set up a set of rules. Now, we used to have a set of rules that said, if you had a company, um, you could not do things to bolster your own business while you were in Congress. And you usually had to put that company in trust while you were serving. That's obviously no longer the case. But that needs to be reinstituted. We need to get rid of big money in politics because this is what we got. We need to let the voice of the people stand out again. Everybody quotes Lincoln, but nobody seems to really go for it. It's, government for the people, by the people, of the people. And I may have got those in the wrong order, but still, it's true. That's what this country was, that people have a voice and that we can govern ourselves. We set up the United States of America to get away from the King of England. We didn't want to be ruled by a king. We didn't want arbitrary rules foisted off on us. And yet here we are.
Oh, and taxation was huge for the
Yeah.
forefathers, right?
Oh, yeah, because they had no representation at court.
Yes, and double taxation was a big deal. My God, we are triple, quadruple taxed. We're taxed every way we turn around.
This is true. So obviously, those things need to be addressed. The Electoral College, there's no rhyme or reason to that has lasted this long. Even when it was created, neither side of the argument for and against were happy with the compromise, and they truly expected someone to come along and do better.
Fix it.
At this point, there's no argument that works to keep the Electoral College. Now, having said that, we do need to increase our number of voters. I like what Australia has done, and it's worked very well for them, and that is every citizen of age votes. It is mandatory. If you don't vote, you're fined. To get away with that, you have to make voting easier for people, not harder. Quit moving the polls around. Quit closing polls. It needs to be made easier. There's lots of ways to do that. Early voting. I've always done early voting. It's so much more convenient. Extend early voting in every precinct, everywhere. Another thing we can do is consider making voting day a national holiday. Everybody gets it off so they can go vote. We can improve.
That puts a level playing field,
Yeah.
which is exactly what we don't have in any way, shape, or form.
Right. We can look into safeguarding electronic ballots and mail-in ballots. We have to make it easier for the American people to vote. We have such a small percentage of our population of citizens who actually vote, and we need to do better. We all need to do better. If you're required to vote, you're going to pay a little bit more attention to what the politicians are saying before you cast your vote. So I think that's a big thing that needs to be changed. right now, there is a great opportunity for states to enact some of these things. Um, the federal government has kind of washed their hands of so many different departments and so many things going on that it gives states the opportunity to step in and do good things. Excuse me. Whoops. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, States can up their public schools. They can increase um, access to good education. They can increase access to health care all on their own until we can come up with a national program that works for everybody. I strongly believe in universal health care. Um, it says, all men are created equal and deserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, under life comes quality health care. Um, I firmly believe that you can't have those without being healthy, and we need to provide that. We're one of the few um, advanced governments, well, we're not that anymore, but countries that doesn't have universal health care. And there's lots of
Except
models.
for we have that for the elderly, and it's probably the best run anything in our federal government, and would not have any money problems were it not for Congress robbing Social Security for their little pet projects,
Yeah,
which is a whole nother topic that when we get into dealing with the corruption of our leaders, we need to block off and protect Social Security from the greedy grubbers in Congress. That money belongs to the voters who put it in, not the men and women in Congress.
yeah. You know, talking about Social Security, it's been said for quite a while now that Social Security is going to go broke by 2035, I think. But there's been a lot of fabulous ideas that would sustain it into the distant future. And that is the way Social Security works. You pay into it with every paycheck, but once you reach 179,000 as that you've earned, once you've reached that point, then you don't have to pay Social Security for the rest of the year.
And to me, that's like saying you don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Now, that's, the fact that this guy makes more money than this guy, and this goes back to the Bible too. It is those who are blessed with more must give more.
Yeah.
What part
Well,
of that is unclear?
yeah. Well, all we have to do is to raise that threshold to 250,000 a year, and we are solvent for years and years to come. And I think, and that initial amount, that the 179, that's been in place for years and years and years and years, and we've had a lot of inflation since then.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that number needs to be tagged to increased costs, inflation. But if we did that, Social Security would be solvent for a long, long time.
And my problem with I don't have a problem with capitalism. I think, we were founded on this premise of the American dream, in which people are able to go out and earn money and save money and make money. That's the American dream. But the problem is we began to allow this group of people to just make more and more and more and more and more and more, while these people made less and less and less and less. And that is not capitalism. That's robbery.
Yeah.
That's not
That
even the
becomes
same thing.
oligarchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk about taxes for just a few minutes. We do need to change our tax structure. Many of these mega billionaires and mega corporations pay only 0.01% in taxes, while someone like me pays 22% taxes. How is that fair? The United States has created a very welcoming and advantageous set of circumstances for businesses, and businesses from all over the world want.
That's why they all come here.
They come
Everybody
here.
gripes about why do we have so many foreign countries here? Well, because we pay them to be here.
Yeah, so businesses have a great climate. Corporations have a great climate for their businesses. We're paying for that great climate with our taxes. Even if we, let me rephrase that. If corporations, if billionaires paid their fair share, I'm not saying take everything away from them. I'm just saying if they paid their fair share for all this infrastructure, all the things that the United States provides by being a great nation, they need to pay for that. The same way our taxes pay for resurfacing the roads and providing National Weather Service so we all know when a tornado or a hurricane's coming.
And I want to make clear, we are not, as soon as you start talking about taxing big money, the small businesses start to fret. They're not in this category. You know, the mom and pop shop downtown does not compare to Elon Musk, but that little shop downtown pays probably 4 times what Musk pays. I pay way more. You pay way more than Musk pays, and neither of us together make a fourth of what the man's worth.
No,
It
we don't even
has
make
to
1%.
be equal.
This is
wrong.
We need to eliminate the loopholes. We need to restructure, and the wealthy need to pay their fair share. Going forward, we need an equitable system. I don't have my notes with me, so I'm trying to think what our next topic was. We talked about this, I believe, last time about education. Right now, Texas just passed their voucher for school, which basically eliminates quality education. These private schools that the vouchers are good for don't even require certified teachers. They don't provide any special education or anything for special needs children. But the money for the vouchers comes out of the money that should have gone to public schools. So our public schools will continue to go down. We'll have people that are not well educated, and that just doesn't work. We need quality education, partly because people who are educated are better able to determine who they want to vote for, are better able to understand issues that are going on. We all need to. So that is another thing where we need to get our public education back. And I think that's going to have to be done at the federal level because there are so many states that have decided to go with this voucher system.
Which will not make education better for anyone.
No. I'm a
Okay.
Texas girl, and I think this is horrible.
Oh, yeah. Congress
Yes.
should never be able to vote their own increases. Debbie, have you ever had a boss say to you, what do you think your raise should be this year?
Yeah. Never.
Never. But guess what? The taxpayers told me how much mine would be.
Yeah.
So the taxpayers need to tell, of all people, Congress. And after watching the town halls and seeing how many of these Congress people will not listen, and if they do listen, they talk back to their voters in the most condescending manner. You know what, bud? I don't care who you are or what party you work for. I'm talking to Democrats and Republicans and independents. Y'all can be fired, and you all don't need a raise when you're not doing your job.
And that kind of brings me to term limits. That has become increasingly necessary. And many of the states have already done this with their own legislatures. The average among the states who have done that is between 8 to 12 years of service, and then you're out. And I think that's a reasonable amount of time. It gives a new legislator time to kind of understand how.
They count on getting rich off it. It doesn't need lifetime. No more. No more lifetime appointments. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think you take some of the pressure off these judges because, you know, we have, just look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Bless her heart. She just kept hanging in there while fighting cancer because she feared what would come in her absence. And I don't want any of our judges to have to live with that fear and to have to give up the rest of their lives in that way. I think they need to be limited. And while I'm out, I'm going to go out here on a limb, Debbie. You can kick me off the ledge if you want to. What happened to Joe Biden, I found unfortunate. But if we're going to be honest, I love old people. I've always loved old people. But there is a point at which, especially people who work is like their whole life. My dad was that way. He didn't retire until he was 80 and diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He wasn't going to quit till God forced him to, right? Well, so in some occupations, that's taken away, right? The medical board can say a doctor has to stop operating on people at X age, whatever that is. Our presidents are going to have to face that. If you're 70, your first term, and you go 2 terms, you're almost 80 years old. And that's, to me, that's the cutoff. Nobody 80 years old should be running for president. Nobody 80 years old should serve. They really let them enjoy the rest of their lives, because if they're male, they're probably gone, but sometime between 80 and 90. If they're female, they may go a little longer, they may not. It just really depends. But the bottom line is 80 is the best cutoff for that. What do you think? Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you right now, if we had more of this younger generation in Congress right now, that big, fat, ugly bill would not even come close to passing, because these young people are the ones who know they're going to have to pay that debt. They know they'll be facing that big, fat debt, and they don't want it. But see, this is why the old guard is holding them off. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking at you, Democratic Party. Leave David Hogg, however you pronounce that poor boy's name, leave him alone. They are trying so hard to keep him and his organization out of their politics. My God, dude, what is wrong with you people? You know, you live in a capitalistic country. Competition is the thing. And Democrats, you claim to be against this whole idea of a king and regal bullshit. But David is just a young man who experienced something traumatic in our country, and he wants to make a change. Don't fight him, let him in and ask him what he thinks. Now, that was my old woman rant for today. Hmm. I'm like you after yesterday's issues. um, I don't know what I did with my notes. Um, mhm. No, I was raised very much with this idea that we all worship a superior being. Every culture may call it something different, but if this is true, then we're ultimately all worshiping this thing we call God. And what we put on it in terms of misnomers, whether I call him Allah or my friend, whether I call him God or my friend calls him Allah, I think we pray to the same person, right? The same being. I also want to say this is an open forum for everyone who listens. And we'd like you to touch base with us through our Facebook or through our websites. Mine is www.donallenwrites.com, and Debbie's is https:// debbieburkhart.com, wordpress.com/ Yep. Oh, sorry. Okay. Also, we're going to load surveys on Facebook this month because we want to know what your beliefs are regarding solutions to the problems in our country. And when we meet next month, we'll discuss with you guys what the results are. It's really important that everybody have a say in fixing things, because for too long our government has taken these little bitty band-aids and put them over gaping wounds, or they've said, well, let's put it off till next Congress is exactly how we got the budget's deficit. And we need to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And that means whether you feel like speaking out, not everyone's comfortable with that, you can go on a survey that I don't charge you for, Democratic Party. You tell me and Debbie how you feel, what you think, and it doesn't cost you a thing. And we'd like you to do that for next month. Okay? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. All right, gang, have a good month, and we will see you next month. Bye bye.